Sitting in a boring, lecture-heavy classroom or training session is nobody's idea of a good time. Yet it does seem that so many times that's exactly where we find ourselves when we're trying to learn something new. We're being fed information instead of having the opportunity to interact with the material that we want to learn. And it can be really boring if you're just getting this constant stream of information without the opportunity to engage. In this video, I'm going to show you a very interesting tool that you can use to make your training, your classrooms, any workshop you're conducting, your own study sessions far more engaging and fun. And best of all, it's recently been updated and expanded for even more ways to turn your learning into interactive activities, which makes it much more useful and much more fun to do. Hello everyone, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Frank, and I've been teaching post-secondary programs and corporate training sessions for over 25 years, mostly in advanced technical subjects, but I've taught a variety of topics. I have a Master's of Arts degree in Learning and Technology. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer since 1998 and a Cisco Academy instructor since 1999. I have a number of different credentials and stuff, but here on this channel, we really explore how we can use technology to learn and teach more effectively and to develop our professional skills. So how can we make learning more interactive? The key to making learning more exciting is to make it more active. Participation in activities helps us become involved in the process of learning, which makes learning so much more effective. By assessing and arranging and creating and solving and applying and exploring content interactively, we create a much better way to learn and to become better teachers and learners. And this is where one of my favorite learning tools comes to the rescue. It's called the Transform Deck by Untold Play. I've been using these cards in this deck for a couple of years now, and they just released a second deck. So they've got now a core set, which is the original set, as well as an expanded deck 2 that allows you to have all sorts of different interactive activities and across a number of different categories to give you lots of different interactive learning ideas. I've really been interested in card decks for working with professional skills ever since the early 1990s. I've used decks for creativity, I've used decks for creative thinking, for formal logic or for creative critical thinking. I've even gotten recent decks on how to conduct workshops and storytelling tactics. These specialty decks provide a real quick set of methods to mix the way I'm working with content, from a purely randomized way to pulling a structured pathway by pulling little recipes. The idea is that they're compact, they're focused, and they create novelty that engages. And my favorite decks for interactivity are really these transform decks, because breaking the traditional pattern of learning by using these transform decks is a way to benefit from variety while still having some structure and some guidance through those types of interactive activities. So let's take a look at the Transform Deck and the new Transform Deck 2 specifically, because they're amongst my favorite tools to mix up a class and to build more engagement and more interactivity into my teaching. In order to create engagement, get students excited about learning, workshop participants excited about participating, we want to create variety. We want to have some interaction. We want them to actually do something as opposed to just sit there and passively absorb information. So here we have the Transform Deck and Transform Deck 2. Now, the Transform Deck used to just be called the Transform Deck. This is the original version 1. It's the exact same cards. There's no change to the cards. It's just been renamed Core Set, and this one is now Deck 2. And within each of these decks, you'll get all of the different cards, and you'll get a number of different suits. So for example, you have the Assess, and then Deck 2 gives you some more Assess. You have the Arrange, more Arrange, Create, solve, apply. And with Deck 2, there's a new suit called Explore. So to work with these cards is quite simple. You can just pull a card and use that as an activity, but you also have instructions for both Deck 1 and Deck 2 has some more instructions. Basically, it talks a little bit about what the deck is, You can use a pick a card. That's the most common way that we begin adding interaction using these decks, is you just pick a random card, like turn it into a model. Learners create a model. On the back, there'll be an example. There'll be different tips on how to do that, and that's just a pick a card. We can also have combinations. We can do suits. You can notice here that there's a beginner level is a combination, and then on the back it talks about combination. The different suits are listed on the back here as well. You'll notice that with Transform Deck 2 you have an Explore suit as well. You can go intermediate by having themes, directions on how to use different sets of cards to create a theme. You can play it as a game. You can have spreads. More instructions, more ways to use the card here. You can see a range of ways. Gives you just a summary of what's on Deck 1, Deck 2. With the suits, you'll notice that you have the additional Explore suit on here. And again, just different ways to use the cards. The cards themselves have an example on the front, sort of a concept on the front of how to create interactivity. Talks about cards that it would pair nicely with, and an example with tips. So I could go through and just using the color combinations here, I could pull card 7. So card 7 would be a blue card. It would be this card here, amplify, reduce. And then I could pull card 14, 18, 19, and so on. And the same applies over here with some of the cards that are in Deck 2, some higher numbers. In total, there's 90 cards altogether. So if you go here, you'll notice that map X onto Y, that's the 90th card in the set. So you have 90 different neat little interactive activities that you can throw into your workshops, into your classrooms. The way I like to do it is, if I want to just do something really quick, I'll just pick a card. If I want to plan out a lesson where I'm going to do some pacing, maybe I'm going to have 15 minutes of concept, 10-minute activity, 15 minutes of concept, 30, 40 minutes of activity, then I'll plan things out using the cards in a little bit more detail ahead of time. It's also nice to have the cards there if you just want to all of a sudden engage your classroom, you find that they're becoming a little disengaged, grab a card and say, here's an activity that we're going to do. I would recommend when you're first starting though, maybe get familiar with a few cards that you really like and use those as the ones that you first introduce. And then you can add more random ones and ones that maybe show you new ways of doing things. These have been very useful tools in my own classes. I can easily run an activity by planning ahead of time or quickly in the moment. If I need to break up a lesson, I need to have my learners become more engaged, or even if I want to give some of the cards to learners so that they have control and motivation and really the ability to control some of their own learning, great way to do this. There's a little work that needs to be done to really get the full benefits from them. I've found that just taking a little bit of time with the class to explain some of the activities, depending on how you're planning to use the decks, of course. But if you're going to share the decks with the students, share the cards, or whether you're just going to use them for lesson planning, they can really help you out. Occasionally I'll just pull a random card, and I'll even have students pull random cards just to plan an interactive event if I want them to use the cards directly. Now, there's one thing I would like to see with the Transform deck though, and that would be, it'd be nice if it came with some blank cards that are cut to the same size and on the same type of cardboard stock as the ones in the deck, just so I could customize them a little bit further. Like if I come up with some of my own activities from elsewhere, I could put them into the deck as well. When you buy a deck, they also have these digital minis so you can look at them on your computer as well. Those can be useful for planning, but I do like the tactile feel of the cards myself. I like the printed decks. That's what I normally use. Now, Untold Play, the creator of these decks, is not sponsoring this video, but they did give me a discount code that you can use if you're interested in getting some of these decks for yourself. I'll link that code down below. These decks have proven so useful in my own teaching that I've actually gotten about a dozen of them so that I can train some other instructors on how to use them in their classrooms. So if you're a school or if you're a training institution and you'd like some help on incorporating these decks into your own classrooms, let me know. I'm going to be doing that for some other instructors, and I'm more than happy to help you as an individual school as well. Hit the like button and subscribe for more learning and technology subjects if you're interested, and thank you so much for watching.